Now, I was discussing the issue of life or death of Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam from the point of view of the Holy Quran. So I presented two verses yesterday, and now I am going to take up the same issue with the help of some other verses of the Holy Quran, so that no ambiguity is left in the mind of any Muslim that without question all the prophets before Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, if there was one prophet who was to be kept, it was Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If he is not, none can. It's impossible. And the verdict of the two verses which I recited before is very clear. Now, the same issue is taken up in another verse of the Holy Quran, which is taken from Surah Al-Anbiya. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما جعلنا لبشر من قبلك الخلد وما جعلنا لبشر. It's not question of Rasul anymore now. No man, whoever was before you, we never made khuld for him. أَفَإِن مِتَّ فَهُمُ الْخَالِدُونَ, which means the people of his time are now being addressed. If you die, will they live on after you? So if the people of his time cannot outlive him or live much longer than he lived here, how an old prophet of 600 years outlive him and still alive and go on to continue to be alive? This verse will never permit Jesus to take a single breath after Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah. How clear. And when you read things with prejudiced eyes, with preconceived ideas, you simply cannot read the simple, clear messages. Listen again. وَمَا جَعَلْنَا لِبَشَرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ الْخُلْدَ أَفَإِن مِتَّ فَهُمُ الْخَالِدُونَ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. So my message to those who insist on Jesus' life is, read this verse after doing istighfar, after seeking Allah's help. Try to understand it with taqwa, and remember the last part, وَإِلَيْنَا تُرْجَعُونَ. If you don't do it, then to God we will return and you will be answerable for whatever beliefs you held here in this world. Surah Al-Anbiya 35-36. Right? The mullahs will still try to get out of the clutches of this verse by suggesting that the word Khalid means forever. It does not mean forever in every context. Khulud is used in the Holy Quran for an exceptionally long life, a long stay. And in this context, it is very clear. And they should remember that there are two khuluds mentioned, one before Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah and one after. And he stands in between the two. وَمَا جَعَلْنَا لِبَشَرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ الْخُلْدَ. If a single case of a very long life could be quoted by the opponents of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah and said, look here, you believe Jesus is still alive. Who knows whether he'll die or not? But 600 years is enough of trial. He didn't die. So if he can show khulud, how can you say that no khulud will follow for anybody, for anyone from among us? So there are two khulud mentioned. First khuld and then khalidun. These are the two words speaking of the khulud fil ard. وَمَا جَعَلْنَا لِبَشْرٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ الْخُلْدَ. That qabl shows that up to the time of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah, the earlier generation must have passed away, without exception. أَفَإِن مِتَّ فَهُمُ الْخَالِدُونَ. Muhammad Rasulullah stands in between the first people and the people to come. So this is a very clear verse, but I don't know why they still insist that Jesus must be kept alive. But there is another verse, I think, which will settle the issue once for all. No question of Jesus living afterwards. In any way, no question will be left of Jesus returning to earth anyway. And this verse is in the form of question answers between God and Jesus Christ, which will take place Yawm al-Qiyamah, the day of resurrection. When prophets will be questioned, so will Jesus be questioned. وَإِذْ قَالَ اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ أَأَنْتَ قُلْتَ لِلنَّاسِ اتَّخِذُونِي وَأُمِّيَ إِلَٰهَيْنِ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ قَالَ سُبْحَانَكَ مَا يَكُونُ لِي أَنْ أَقُولَ مَا لَيْسَ لِي بِحَقٍّ إِن كُنتُ قُلْتُهُ فَقَدْ عَلِمْتَهُ تعلم ما في نفسي ولا أعلم ما في نفسك إنك أنت علام الغيوب إنك أنت علام الغيوب. Now this verse means that on the day of judgment, when Jesus Christ will be presented before God, like all prophets will be inquired from about their role in the world, so Jesus will be particularly asked this question. No other prophet will be. Did you say to the people, your own servants, that worship me and my mother other than God? The answer will be, Subhanaka ma yakunu li an aqula ma laysa li bihaq. Of that which I could not have said anything of which I had no right. Al-Haq here is right. In kuntu qultu faqad alimta. If I ever said it, you should have known it. Ta'lamu ma fi nafsi. And why are you inquiring from me? You know whatever is in my heart, but I don't know what is the purpose of this question. He'll be amazed. It will be the first time that he'll be confronted with this question, and that shows he will have no knowledge whatsoever of his people having done that. You see? He's amazed. He said, I don't know why you're asking this question. What happened? Tell me what happened. Innaka anta allamul ghuyub. The question now, it follows. Ma qultu lahum illa ma amartani bihi. I never said anything to them except that of which you had yourself ordered me. Only I said that much. What did you say? Anibudullaha rabbi wa rabbakum. Worship me and my Lord, and your Lord, rabbakum. Wa kuntu alayhim shahidan ma dumtu fi. As long as I remained among them, I was witness to the fact. I was guard over them. They never said it. As long as I remained, this did not happen. فَلَمَّا تَوَفَّيْتَنِي كُنْتَ أَنْتَ الرَّقِيبُ عَلَيْهِمْ. So whenever you caused me to die, it was you alone who was a witness over them and who could watch what was happening. وَأَنْتَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. And you are witness over everything. Now the question is, what does tawaffa means? And when will it take place? I presented once another ayah which speaks, Ya Isa inni mutawaffika wa rafiuka ilayya wa mutahiruka min allazina kafaru wa ja'ilu allazina tabauka fawqa allazina kafaru ila yawm al-qiyamah. The mullahs say mutawaffika is mentioned first, but it will happen afterwards. Right? The question is, when will it happen and where? If it happens after Jesus is lifted to the heaven and brought back on earth, and he fights in favor of Islam against the Christians. If he breaks the cross himself and destroys the enemies of Islam and fights those who believe in him to be Son of God, could he answer this to God? As long as I lived, they did not do it. فَلَمَّا تَوَفَّيْتَنِي, when you called me to die, then whatever happened, I don't know. I have no knowledge whatsoever. So how could he say that? God would have told him, look here, what do you mean? The Prophet of God, for God's sake, please behave and answer me truthfully. Did I not, before your death, send you back to this world? And don't you know that all these people had started worshipping you and your mother? Why are you telling me this? After my death, till my death, it did not happen. After my death, you know, I don't know. So these are the important things presented to the world by the way of a dialogue. So if he died here on earth, he could not have died without the knowledge of all this. This is a simple question. It is impossible for him to have returned, died here on earth and refused the knowledge. If he died upstairs somewhere, then he would not return. So what is the purpose of sending him up anyway? He can't be brought back. You're waiting in vain. On the day of judgment, God would question him to let the whole world know that this is my true servant. He never said anything which I never asked him to do. And he's so innocent that he has no knowledge, even not the remotest knowledge of what happened to his own people. Right? So this is the verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, 117, 119. If you include the Bismillah as the first verse, then the number is 117, 119. Otherwise it will be 116, 118. So anybody can see this, right?
Did I miss anything?
Yes. Mashallah, you've done well. So there is not one verse, verses upon verses which leave no room for Jesus to remain alive after the demise of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is no room for Jesus to live on till the age of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Qabla, all whatever was there had passed away before Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It declares, the Holy Quran declares categorically that no prophet of God ever lived to join the time of Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every prophet had passed away. So he stood at the end of all the prophets which had ever appeared anywhere in the world. Then he started his own ummah. And from then on, no other prophet ever born anywhere could have any authority on the world. Then only his ummah had the authority. His own servants could guide the people. And if a prophet was to be born, it had to be born under the verse of Surah Nisa, وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. All the rewards have been concentrated in the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't have to look elsewhere. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَالرَّسُولَ. This prophet is now the one, if you follow him and God, then you will be rewarded with everything. Nothing will be withheld from you. مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ. This is the Ahmediyya belief. Why to go to Jesus Christ anyway? He is not in the category of these people. Man yuti Allah wa Rasula is a category of Islam. And Jesus could not have been brought back to interfere with the Ummah Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because the Holy Quran says, وَرَسُولًا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلِ. So even somehow, if you can make him still live and breathe, it will be purposeless. Even if he lives for 1 billion years more, he will be of no use to Muhammad Rasulullah's Ummah, because if he comes, we can turn back to him and say, look here, are you not Rasulun ila Bani Israel? Yes. What are you doing here? No, this is not your jurisdiction. And if you dare to abrogate the verse of the Holy Quran, then your life is forfeited. So, no way, if he didn't die, then people will kill him. These ulama. These ulama themselves will kill him under the excuse that you claim to have abrogated the verse of the Holy Quran, which says, Rasulun ila Bani Israel, what are you doing here? Go back. Or will you dispatch? We'll dispatch you. So why to live for that long in a solitary confinement in somewhere in some star or the fourth heaven, and come and then return back, dispatch back to heaven. But this time to higher heaven, of course, by the mullahs. There's no sense. They're just making a mockery out of Islam. Disgraceful. This is what blasphemy is. To distort the meaning of the Quran to a degree where it becomes an object of mockery. So behave yourself, understand the Quran as it should be understood. There is no room for Isa to live on, first of all, as I have proved. Even if you make him alive somehow and you don't listen to my explanations from the Quran, then it's purposeless. He can't serve any purpose in the Ummah of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Right? Now, coming to the first question, which is, I'm trying to answer in a very long way, but in a way so that the questioner could fully understand what we mean by the truth of Masih Maud, how it should be properly understood. First of all, I have presented the case of Jesus Christ that he is dead. If he is dead, as we believe, as the Quran presents him to be dead, then the Messiah who is to come, he can be easily identified. Then he will have to be born here in the Ummah. Then he will be born as a child in the Ummah of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and Messiah would be only his title. Ibn Maryam will only be a title. So Jesus, son of Mary, will become a title if old Jesus is dead. If he is not dead, then he himself has to come. Then Masih Maud cannot be taken seriously at all. This is the point to which I am driving the questioner along with me. Understand the point? So if you are satisfied by my arguments that old Jesus is dead, then reread the prophecies of Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which swear by God that Jesus, son of Mary, would certainly come. Now, who would be that Jesus, son of Mary, who would descend if he is buried in earth and dead? He never ascended. It can only mean sense if we understand this prophecy to be metaphorical. Like you, in England, for instance, somebody who becomes a great dramatist is called Shakespeare as a compliment. Like somebody who is extremely generous, so he would be given a compliment by the Arab as Hatam Tahi. You see? A great poet could be given a compliment by saying he is Imrul Qais. Now, everyone will understand that when someone is called Shakespeare here in England, if someone is called, it only means that he has excelled in the art of drama, writing dramas, or he's a great poet. If somebody is given the compliment of here is Hatam Thai, nobody will misunderstand. They will immediately understand that this man must be very generous, extremely generous. This is why he is given such a compliment. So this is a human style of saying things, and this style is used in religion as well. It's not just the human prerogative to give a name of someone else to someone else, full name, while actually the name is different. This is the dilemma which has to be now understood, resolved. So if you say it is just a human style to give the name of some person to another one, I can prove it that this is not right. Names have been always given in religion which applied to other people, not to the same person who was promised. So to prove this point further, I call to witness the mention of Elia in the New Testament, Old Testament. Elijah or Elia was promised before the advent of Jesus Christ, that Elia, an old prophet of God, would return to earth from heaven like Jesus is expected to return, in person, sitting on a chariot. What else could you describe his physical descent than in these words? Very clearly, he went sitting on a chariot, he will descend sitting on the same chariot. His name will be Elijah or Elia, the two different pronunciations. Now, when Jesus came, did he descend sitting on his chariot under the same name? Was he ever reported? So these ulama should first reject the first Jesus, then the eternal Masih Maud would come afterwards. They are demanding him to descend from heaven bodily, like they believe Jesus is gone. But if this is the reason why they reject him, they can't start rejecting people on this ground without first rejecting the old Jesus Christ, because he was rejected exactly on the same ground. The Jewish elders, it is mentioned in the New Testament, used to taunt him and his followers by saying, all right, if you are Jesus, where is Elijah? Why hasn't he come? Where has he descended? Show us. And then come to us, and then we will begin to think, to consider your case. When this was presented to Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, this is what the enemies are talking about, they're laughing at you. They say, produce Elia first. What was the answer? John the Baptist, Hazrat Yahya, was mentioned by Hazrat Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, pointing at him. He said, he is the Elia who was to descend from heaven on chariot. Believe it or not, it's up to you. See? His name was John. He was son of Zachariah. Yahya ibn Zachariah. The promised person's name was Elia. He was son of somebody else. And he was to descend from heaven sitting on a chariot, like when the horses drive an old Greek style chariot. This is called chariot, horse driven carriage. So it was a fiery chariot driven by fiery horses, imaginary horses. So the prophet Elia was supposed to have risen sitting on the same chariot, was mentioned to descend sitting on the same chariot before Jesus Christ. Those who demand the first sign of truth from Masih Maud, that he should descend like Jesus Christ from heaven, then we will believe in you. The answer is, if not, if he is not acceptable on this count, you first reject the previous Jesus. His turn will come later on. Find the join the Jews. Tell them this Jesus is false, because literally that prophecy did not come to be fulfilled. So whom will you agree with, the Jews or Jesus himself? The moment you agree with Jesus against the Jewish interpretation, you will have also to accept Masih Maud as a genuine image of old Jesus Christ. Follow the argument? First mention it, then I'll come to the second one. So here, the most important point we have now reached is, if Jesus Christ of old is to be taken as majaz, then we can go together a long way in proving that in that way and that way and that way, Hazrat Masih Maud could be metaphorically described as Jesus. If you insist on his literal revisit to the world, then we can't go together at all. Then this is the parting of the ways. You like what you like. But I can demonstrate to you that you will land yourself into such difficulties and land the entire Islam into such difficulties that from that you will never be able to retreat your steps afterwards. No Jesus literally can ever come again, because the way he is described makes it impossible for anyone to come. So why open a door and before it is opened, shut it again and lock it and seal it? So the Jesus you are expecting, he can never come. This is the point. The Jesus we have believed in is a Jesus who was similar to his earlier birth, fulfilling his earlier circumstances, being treated exactly like that by the people in which he is born. So if we prove that the old Jesus is dead, then a new attitude appears, that of metaphor, that of understanding of the prophecies of Hazrat Muhammad as bashakl majaz, not bishakl haqiqiyya, in their metaphorical aspect, not in their literal aspect. So that will be the proof. But first of all, you should know what you believe in. And if you continue to hold to that belief, then I can't help you by producing any argument in favor of Muslim Islam, because that will be irrelevant. You will not accept it anyway. So this is why we must exhaust this area. Now Jesus, I said, as you believe, can never come back. Why not? Because it is not the same Jesus who is of old. A new Jesus will have to be created after him, because that Jesus was so meek, so humble. He never walked with sword in hand. Did you ever read about Jesus walking sword in hand, brandishing the sword? Never. His teaching was, if you are slapped on one cheek, offer the other one. If somebody grabs for your shirt, offer also the cloak. But the Jesus who is they believe, because they believe in literal understanding, no metaphor is permitted. He will descend with his brandishing his sword, and he will become 1,000 times stronger, even more, than the Jesus who used to live here. He was a meek, humble man. But this Jesus will be the only person who would challenge the one-eyed monster of his time, Dajjal. And the whole world will be conquered by Dajjal, single-handed. And Dajjal will be destroyed by this Jesus single-handed. Imagine, he will be stronger than the entire world. He will be stronger in his might than the whole might of the Ummat Muslimah and the rest of the world put together. Otherwise, he won't be able to kill Dajjal, who had before him conquered the whole world, emerged as the sole monarch of the seas, of the lands, of the air. Is this the same Jesus? But when he appears, he will do strange things. You have to wait for that Jesus who can never come. Because this Jesus, when he returns, literally, he will also have acquired the breath of a dragon. What sort of prophet that would be? Who breathes fire. The fire of his breath will leap upon his enemies miles away, and he will recognize them by what was written on their forehead, Al-Kafir. He says, all right, you are Kafir, come on. And the breath of fire will destroy. Is this the prophet you are awaiting? Can you ever dream of such a prophet? The sunnah of the prophets is made so clear in the Quran. The chapter of that sunnah is closed. Nobody can come defying that sunnah. Only one can come following that sunnah, no more. But how will you fit in Jesus Christ? And how can you call him the old prophet? The old prophet Jesus was so different. So then he goes in search of that Dajjal. Now what is a Dajjal? You can't translate it in any other way except the way he is described in the Hadith. Because you insist everything must be literal. So in this way you have a very big problem at your hand. You have to wait for a Dajjal before Jesus Christ. Right? A Dajjal who would be a one-eyed monster, so big and huge as never a monster was created by human fancy and tales. Not that big, Sinbad, you read Sinbad and Alif Laila and Laila. No such monster can be found in those books like the one you believe Jesus would have become. One-eyed monster Dajjal would be before the coming of Jesus Christ. And it's not the question of just one exceptionally very powerful very powerful and cruel man, of huge dimensions. It is also the question of how will he travel the world so fast? What would be his mode of travel? And that also has been described. You must take it literally now. Be ready for literal meaning. He is a huge donkey, the like of which was never seen anywhere by the world. The question is, what would be the dimension of his mother? Right? And he will give birth to that donkey, and the Dajjal will also be given birth by something, and he would ride the donkey in the modern age of aeroplanes and supersonic jets, etc., and aerial bombardment and this and that. But he will be able to single-handed conquer the entire might of the world, because they could destroy Hiroshima with an atom bomb, but not that donkey. It's a very strange donkey. And he would ride the donkey sitting over and start conquering every country and subjugate the Muslims. Now, because that has not yet happened, they must wait first for the donkey to be born. Because without that donkey, one-eyed monster cannot come. And after the donkey is reported to have been born somewhere in some jungles, then they start praying for, oh God, Jesus is a far cry from here. He will come later. But for God's sake, send the one-eyed monster. The donkey is ready. But the rider is absent. So produce them. and let them beat us hollow, as you have promised. Let us destroy whatever we are left with. Let us be destroyed so completely by that monster that after that we tell, remind God of Jesus. He is to come after this havoc is played, not before. So what are they waiting for? They are waiting eternally for something which can never happen. If it happens, then it will be the greatest curse that could ever befall an ummah. If they believe that these prophecies have not been fulfilled, they have not been fulfilled if they are taken literally. If taken metaphorically, they have been very clearly fulfilled. But that part we'll discuss tomorrow or next time, inshallah. Because we have only time left for translation, please. Right? جزاکم اللہ خیر. انشاءاللہ. السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ. We'll meet again inshallah next week. فی امان اللہ.